Today is NFT security and kind of the way that I see things tending into in the future. I don't know the sort of the layout of the crowd. I kind of want to make this a little bit interactive, but minimal effort on y'all's part. Just by a show of hands, how many people here own NFTs? Okay, so a few. Next question, how many people here own tokens? Okay, so more people. Yeah, that makes sense because tokens really precede NFTs. NFTs are a form of token. They're an ERC 721, and that's a standard that came out about 2.5 years after the ERC 20, which is something that people are more familiar with. And I want to kind of start with a little bit of history here. The ERC 20 token standard came out in November of 2015, and it was integrated into the Ethereum blockchain as like into the Ethereum network as an Ethereum improvement proposal. And it was so popular amongst people that it was legitimately included as the first dApp that you make in the most popular Ethereum developer tool at the time called Truffle. And so when people were building stuff, they would go to Truffle, and the first thing they'd see is make your own token. So it kind of makes a lot of sense that things took off in 2017 with ICO mania. It's because legitimately that anybody could just roll a token right off, no big deal. And we kind of saw this huge sort of uptick in funding through this new sort of funding vehicle. It was really unclear as to how this would be regulated. There wasn't a lot of regulation. People were saying, do act now and ask for forgiveness later, which previous talk had mentioned that. That's kind of how this works. But after ICO mania, you saw that things were really tipping down, and a lot of people kind of lost a lot of money in ICOs, but the thing that came afterwards was the whole idea of utility. Now, what do you do with a bunch of tokens? Well, there's this thing called DeFi, and to kind of oversimplify things, ICOs kind of made billions of dollars worth of people holding these bags, all these bag holders, and they were trying to figure out things to do with it. So one of the things that first started coming up were exchanges. Your Dentacoin protocol and your Veritasium totally didn't work out, but at least you can begin exchanging them, and you could begin to it just began some market. These things might not have any sort of underlying value, but they can have sort of velocity, and this actually gave rise to some real utilities, compound lending, etc. That ended up taking on even more value than the ICOs altogether. And so over the years, you saw the DeFi market cap go from $2 billion to $22 billion to $170 billion. It, up like a rocket. A lot of interest in this. I know that there are 147 financial lobbyists who are now 147 crypto lobbyists, which is very good for crypto industry. And thanks to Coin Center and others for putting a lot of time and hard effort into getting them. But in tandem with the growth of DeFi, you saw a lot of DeFi hacks. So in 2019, you saw $60 million worth of hacks. In 2020, you saw about $150 million. In 2021, you saw over $2 billion worth of hacks. And this is only going to continue to get worse over time unless certain measures and security protocols are implemented. At present, the whole mindset of crypto is it's in your hands, it's sovereignty. If you lose it, it's on you. That's fine for people who are crypto anarchists like me. But a lot of people aren't like that. They like to have some sort of security, around that. And so going back to NFTs, this will all tie in shortly. The ERC 721 standard came out about 2.5 years after the ERC 20 standard, which more or less in my mind, everything's built on standards. If you don't have standards, you can't really make a community, you can't really build, you can't have any sort of upward mobility. And so NFTs are about 2.5 years behind ICOs in DeFi. And if you look at the sort of thing that we're seeing now, we saw ICO mania in 2017, 2018, and we get to see, again recently, NFT mania, which is, again, lagging a little bit, but you see a similar sort of chart of that spike up, and then things are kind of coming right back down. So if DeFi, followed ICO mania, I would posit that there's going to be a lot of utilities made for NFTs here shortly. Right now, what do you do with NFTs? So I'm like a part of this thing called the Nouns DAO, and what do? We just fund random things because these NFTs are really, really expensive, and we have a lot of treasury to be able to do stuff with. We put on parties. We sponsor glasses creation for like people and our children in foreign countries that can't see very well. We put on events. We sponsor events. What do Bored Apes do? Well, they throw parties in New York for NFT NYC. They hire they hire artists to perform and such. And a lot of it's about access right now. And so you can think of NFTs kind of like a means of like SSO. And so in tandem, there aren't too many use cases for it, but already, we're starting to see some sort of semblance of like hacks in the space. And this is certainly dwarfed by, again, the recent $2 billion of DeFi hacks. But I can guarantee you that as more NFT structure comes online, or infrastructure becomes online, there will be many, many, many more hacks. And these numbers will explode. Again, keep in mind that this comes down to what can you do with it. Every time you interact with a smart contract, there's a chance that your NFT, your wallet, could be compromised in some way. And it's just unreasonable to ask people, especially because NFTs brought a lot of people into the space that were unfamiliar with it. And they just think oh, it's fun, it's cool, I get to go to these parties and meet these people that I wouldn't get to meet otherwise. Or maybe I got into this thing really early and now it's really big and there's a cool community. And then they could have this thing taken from them very, very quickly because they clicked on a Discord link. And that can be pretty rough for some people, leading to various lawsuits which have been waged against companies like OpenSea and others, they kind of shrug their shoulders and they're like, sorry, man, sovereignty comes with a lot of responsibility. I posit that we can stop these numbers from exploding. We can really do a lot to inhibit the point of you have sovereignty over this asset, ergo you can, if anything that you do, there's a chance of you losing it, and that's just the way things are. And one of the means that, so I'm working on something called the Compose network, which is a means of basically separating transferability from utility. And so if you see here, there's a Venn diagram, and whenever you have NFTs on a chain, it means they were minted, they were created. These are just, again, tokens, very simple smart contract. And then if you want to do something with it, you have utility contracts in tandem. And NFT utility contracts may or may not have the ability to transfer your NFT. And what I'm saying is that you need to remove utility contracts' ability to transfer your NFT whatsoever. And so in this way, you remove utility or you bifurcate transferability and utility. And so if you were to think about this, imagine you were walking around with a giant wad of cash at all times. That would be very, very dangerous. It's better if you just have a little bit of money that you can take out at any point in time and only use that. That's the idea of having one big wallet, which is a honeypot, versus multiple wallets. But simultaneously, you could have an account with somebody that you store the money in, that they secure it, and maybe there's some sort of authentication that you have anytime that you want to pay for something. And if there's a threshold that's met, they do a check with you. Hey, is this really you? Just like how you'd receive a text, something like that. But you can still self-custody this whole process, so you don't have to be dependent on some third party. But that's what I'm kind of talking about here, is just being able to have that separation of concerns, because we don't carry around all our money in the open to be potentially taken by some bad actor. So this whole idea of the Compose network is more or less, with current blockchains, you have the mint contracts and the utility contracts on one chain. In this new model, you have your NFT mint contracts and your wallets on one chain. And then you have this idea of reflection, which is basically we take the NFTs and we provide you a certificate of ownership on our network. And then we allow you to use those certificates to interact with utility contracts. And in this way, you allow your NFTs to be transferred, sold, whatever, on one network. And the ownership is tracked on this network, where you're just using certificates or reflected assets. And that's how we get across the whole sort of issue of transferability versus utility. So how does it work? Users connect their NFT wallet on Compose via just a signed challenge message, not a transaction. So wallets have basically private keys and public keys. And private keys are unique strings that you can use to basically sign something. It's kind of like encrypting something with a password, and you know that that password came from the specific key because it's associated with an account. And so this Ethereum wallet says, hey, this Compose wallet signs for me, and the Compose wallet says, hey, I signed for him. You need that two-way because the Ethereum wallet could point to anybody's Compose wallet, which may not be the case. And so I don't know why somebody would do that, but you want to make sure that both parties are in agreement. So basically, it's just like creating another account and associating it, kind of like how Google does with SSO. And then how does it work? We have this relayer network that monitors NFT transfers from the originating chain and basically submits them to Compose as like reflected NFTs or like the certificates. So like over here, if you're transferring things on Ethereum, or if anybody here uses Solana or like Phantom or anything like that, we basically keep a light state on the Compose network that only monitors transfers. So that way we kind of know where things are at all times. There's a little bit of a lag, but it's not a big deal. And more or less, as long as the people that have that NFT continue owning it, they can continue using its certificate for utility on this other network. And so you can begin to gain the same sort of value that you do. And we see this through various things that are beginning to pop up. There's really only one very notable one called token proof, which is being used to basically show that it's the same sort of idea. You sign with your wallet, and it shows that you have ownership of it. And so, like for instance, I'm a Bored Ape Yacht Club owner, and so with that, I don't have to ever expose my wallet, and I can be issued tickets because as long as I have that in my wallet, I can continue to receive benefits from that asset. So the question is, well, that sounds great. How do I use it? Well, okay, it's like a year out from the testnet, and so for now, just be really vigilant and connect to your wallet and look out for what you're using. But some tips to avoid getting wrecked, because I know plenty of people that have lost money in NFTs. I said around $60 million this year so far have been lost, but I'm sure that there are many, many, many more dollars that have been lost just because people are embarrassed, they don't want to report it. There are so many things, I have friends that have lost a few NFTs worth 1 ETH or less, and so I'm sure there are many such cases. One thing is don't ever hook up your MetaMask to anything, not even Discord, because it just makes it too easy to mess up. You want to keep your MetaMask separate. Also, don't keep MetaMask or any wallets on your phone. I didn't include that here, but that makes it easy. If you have your phone out and I'm hey, that's a nice looking wallet. I just happen to have this crowbar. What if I just bludgeon you in the head and take your phone? That's really unrealistic because people aren't really that violent, but it's better if you just don't have it around, because it just leaves you open to any sort of potential accidents. And then you could also, if you're dependent on your phone, there could be a boating accident, very famous. Don't click on random mint links. Everybody, all these NFT things are in Discord. If you get sent something, don't let FOMO overrule your judgment to be able to make a prudent decision as to putting money into something or jumping into something. And also I actually scammed one of my friends accidentally because I kicked on a Discord link many months ago when I was just getting into the NFT thing, and the damage was very minimal, but he was like, dude, I've never been scammed, and I've been in this space since Ethereum launched, and you can scam me. But so, it doesn't matter how long you've been in, but just be very vigilant. There'll be, if you're in any Discord stuff and something pops up, then from your DMs, just don't trust random DMs. Use a separate wallet for minting. If you're really worried, have a wallet for minting that you can transfer stuff out of there to a different wallet. That way, if there's any sort of compromised minting contracts, things like that, they can't, steal anything, any other assets from. There'll be nothing for them to steal. Keep your expensive NFTs in a vault or in cold storage. I don't know how many of y'all are blue chip owners or anything like that, but that's one way to be able to minimize any chances of seizure or scams, phishing. And those are some general tips. In terms of what I was talking about, I've been in this space for a long time. If anybody has any questions about security on tokens, protocols, smart contracts, or just in general about the way in which you can approach these, you know, you can feel free to talk to me, ask questions after this. And also regarding that new thing that I was talking about that's super cool and it's going to change and revolutionize the world of NFTs and security. It's called Compose Art, and you can just go to compose.art to read the white paper for more technical details. So thank you so much for listening. I'll open up to questions if there are any. Yes, we are, you know, working.
Hopefully that's on. I'm going to ask him to repeat the question just real quick for the home audience.
For the home audience, so it says we have another year before, you know, while we're going through testnet, and I was going to lead up to the question is you had some great tips on things that people should do in the interim period, and yeah, because sometimes you got to have an NFT. Like when I went to VCon, excuse me. So sometimes you have to have an NFT on your mobile device, but you don't want to have access to it. So I find myself, I have everything on my ledger, and then I'll transfer it over to my MetaMask. Yep. But then as soon as it's coded, then I want to swap it back.
Yep.
Because yeah, I'm like many people. I've been phished, I've been scammed, and,
yep.
and you know, I can only look at myself in the mirror and say, dude, you fucked up. Learn from that. But what my question would be, what other things can we do when we need to use an NFT for admission to something and we don't have our laptop with us? Any other best practices?
It really comes down to the ones who are administrating the event and what they're willing to accept as provenance of ownership. Now, there is that one application called Token Proof, which has come about that basically shows that you have signed a message from your wallet, so obviously you own that wallet, and by being able to show that, like, it's a certificate that says I own the wallet, so ergo I own everything in the wallet. So you can just check and see, hey, are these things in the wallet that you need to have access to the event? So you wouldn't need the actual NFT. Now the only thing that does this right now, which has come out recently, since it really just kind of like had its first test run to South by Southwest, is called Token Proof, and this is something that's being utilized by Moonbirds, and it's being utilized by Bored Ape Yacht Club, and we ourselves are going to be doing something very similar with to Token Proof. Basically, SSO for your NFTs and your wallets. We're going to be connecting it to Unity. We're going to have plugins for Unity, Real Engine for like games and such, because this is something that the number of gaming studios that we've talked with are interested in, because the largest sort of like place to sell your games, which is known as Steam, a marketplace that's run by Valve. They've banned all NFTs from being in their games because they take a 30% fee on all gaming profits, and you can't. There's nothing for them to. They can't own NFTs. They can't, because it's a sovereign thing. But I really do think that the future of gaming, if people really want to see crypto in it, or really the future of a lot of digitization, is a Web 2 sort of interactivity with Web 3 assets and sovereignty. So.
Floor is open if anybody else has any other questions. I was going to give just a little bit of thanks. So Eric, I'm not sure if you're okay with me sharing this, but Eric also today just made a donation of art to our gallery.
It's a beautiful, beautiful polar bear. It's an NFT that I have.
Well, thank you very much for it. I appreciate it, Eric.
Of course. All right, thank you all.